All right, here we go. I think we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream on Canada's Technology Triangle.net user group. My name is Callan Campbell, I'm one of the hosts, and tonight we have Roy Kim, and he'll be presenting Python with Azure SDK. Roy, take it away.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thanks for the intro. Okay, hey guys. Just gonna do a talk, very short and concise talk on how to start with Python for like beginners, like straight beginners, and how to use Python with the Azure SDK. So the agenda is, why do we want to use Python and Azure SDK? I'll get into that in a bit. Um, and um, and then how to start up your dev tooling with VS Code, set up a dev environment, extensions, software installs, and then I'll go through a demo script. It's design, right, of managing and creating Azure like resources such as a storage account, and then kind of go over kind of, well, how do we package that, or build it or compile it into an executable kind of command line tool, right? And then any Q&A if anybody is interested in. So okay, first of all, okay, why would we want to use Python and Azure SDK as a DevOps kind of engineer or platform engineer, in the context of you know automating processes or managing kind of Azure. Okay, because there are other options to manage and create Azure cloud resources. There's always Terraform, which is very popular, ARM, Microsoft's Azure ARM templates, Microsoft's Azure Bicep, right? So those are still very popular and recommended for kind of declarative, like a in terms of a DSL language. But I would say that for Python and using its Azure SDK is for a really highly customizable approach, right? Because yeah, it's object-oriented programming language, and so there could be some very advanced scenarios. You can use it alongside, let's say, a Terraform module in a DevOps or GitHub's action workflow or pipeline to do things that are maybe more sophisticated that you can do with the Terraform. Other scenarios are, you have your a web application, or you have some application, and you want to do some like tight integration with kind of Azure resources and managing them, right? Just a very custom tool. Okay. um, there's also just custom, configuration management in large enterprise. So the keyword is, sophisticated scenarios that need, highly customizable approach. Now, now why Python? Well, Python, is a very popular language out there, I find. It's now with a lot of like job postings and working with younger colleagues, Python seems like kind of like the go-to language. Especially I think one thing that's very attractive is that it's very so much cross-platform, although PowerShell is cross-platform. But Python is very well suited for Windows and Linux environments too. And fun fact is Azure CLI is built on Python as well. So so you know why another reason why you would choose Python is that you work for an organization or a team or technology kind of DevOps group, and really the choice language is Python, right, to work with Azure. And of course you have to use the Azure SDK, which has like an object model to work with Azure resources. So, okay, now next is, okay, how do we start from scratch? Like, what do you need to start? Let's say it's for those that are like brand new to Python, and what do you need, right? Because I was there at one point too. right? So first, kind of, well, my choice of IDE is Visual Studio Code. It's because it's free, right? And there's still a lot of, good tooling around for that. Obviously, you need to. So I'm speaking on just for in the context of Windows, okay? But Linux is very, very much recommended. But just to be focused, will just work with Windows. So Windows, of course, you download the latest version. The Python executable command is in a path variable, right? Next is very popular is the Visual Studio Code Python extension. And you can just see here the number of downloads of this Visual Studio extension is 108 million installs. That just shows kind of the amount of popularity that Python has, right? So the reason for this extension is that so that it reveals a debugger. There's a run button, IntelliSense. So just all those features with the Python language. Okay. Um, and let's say, and then of course you have to install the Azure SDK for Python. And when you install, you're not installing, let's say, into your Windows environment. It's really installing it in terms of package as a package, right, in your kind of your dev environment. Okay, so that way you do the pip command is a Python package manager. So it installs like the package for Azure, right? So you can always go to this link, just Google around these keywords here, and there are like three types of the bare bones, like bare base essentials. Azure Management Resource. There's one for authentication and etc. So just look that up. So let's just flip to Visual Studio Code and kind of give, let's see here, just make that bigger. I'll walk you through what we have here, right? So first and foremost is that, okay, Python um, extension. Okay, so what I have here is, well, like if we go to global environments, right? Like I have two um, like installs, like so because sometimes you're working with software that has a hard like a dependency on a specific version for whatever reason. You want that flexibility, right? So if you go Control P, whoops, whoop, okay. So if I go, let's see here, Python select interpreter, right? We can kind of select which version we want to work with here, right? So interpreter is kind of like uh, the programming kind of runtime, or what helps compile and run your Python code or script. Okay. um, and then you have your workspace here, and then your packages, right? So when you install Python, these are your package libraries, and what you would install is shown through here. You can delete them. So all these is part of your Visual Studio extension. Okay. Next is, okay, just give you a good, very simple rundown of kind of a hello world, right? So, the strength of Python is it's kind of, people say it's fairly easy to use. I come from a .NET background, and it's not, well, for me there was still a bit of a learning curve. Just of course you have to learn the syntax and kind of all the specific nuances with the language, but yeah, it's your basic, you need variables, objects, classes, but it's not strongly typed. Okay, so here you get this run button, or you get a debug it, right? Debug Python file, and then you run that, and then you can see the variables, breakpoints. So you get all this tooling through that Visual Studio extension, right? And it comes in the output here. So if you see here, uh, Roy, and then we have the name variable gets assigned, and then I can run through that. Okay, cool. So that's just a quick rundown of how a Python script looks like in its very basic form. So um, okay, next is something called Python virtual environment. So this is a key concept. It's not really required, but it's a good standard practice. So basically, it's a self-contained directory, right? That contains like um, your what specific Python interpreter, your packages, your code, all that stuff, right? Because if you're working with multiple Python packages, but you have like a base install of a specific version of the Python interpreter, and you might get like what do you call it, like just version dependency kind of like a mess, okay? Because you have a different package with a certain version, but you want stability and you want it in an isolated kind of environment, which is really a folder, which is managed in under a folder, okay? So going back to my IDE here, let's see here. So in order to create a environment, let's see here. Let me pull up the commands. So okay, well, okay, first of all, I kind of want to show you that in order to install the Azure SDK kind of in your environment, is these are your typical packages. Okay, you can control which version you want, or this means just kind of get the latest. So you can centralize everything here, and then in terms of commands, let's see here, you like, let's say for this one right here, right, I run this and it goes and starts to update, but I've already installed them, right? But or you can do it individually, pip install, and then like the name of the package, right? So Azure, whatever you have in here, right? You can do it individually, right? So that's about package management. Now, if you want to create an environment, right, which I have one right here, you'd simply do Python -m v virtual environment. Okay, kind of running that there. It's already been created, and it's just a folder. Okay, but in your command line, to have your command line to be in that running in that virtual environment, you have to run the activate command that's located uh, right right here, right? So scripts, activate right there, right? So right there, right? And then so this thing shows that I'm in that environment. So if I go Python dash dash version, whoops, Python dash dash version, I would see what version I have set up in that virtual environment, and I could switch to, right, install 3.12 that exists and have it run under that as well. And then in my library we have these as well. So if I go back to here, in my workspace environment, that's what shows up. Okay, so that's virtual environment. Okay, and then you can deactivate and kind of come out of that virtual environment, go into a different one if you like. So okay, let's see right here. Um, Another useful command is pip list to know what packages were installed. All right, so there's that. Okay, now let's jump into some code that works with Azure. Okay, so let's see here. So I have something called create storage. Right, so allow me to just kind of walk through like various chunks here. Okay, um, so first is the packages or libraries, after they're installed, you need to kind of import them, right, into your kind of your runtime, into your code, right? So I'm using Azure Identity to help with logging in, and then from these packages, and I import like the object or the class, right, that I can call, right? So yeah, that's importing. And then next is we have to log in. So this one is based on your current login session that you produce by using the Azure CLI, like AZ login command. Okay, so it picks up the session, right? So here I'm not really passing in any client ID, client secret, or username, password, or anything like that, right? It could prompt me for that, like device login, but let's see here. Let's run that section of code to see me kind of logged in. So exited, no errors. So it's kind of I'm already logged in. Next is setting up my subscription ID, because we want to work within a certain subscription. So, okay, interesting. Um, okay, let's see here. Term was not recognized as a commandlet. Okay, so, okay, hopefully it'll still work. And then if I were to run this, okay, let me do this. Let me just run it from scratch here. Resource group name. Okay, so hold on. Let me bring in some code that I have here. Okay, let's try this one right here. So create az storage cli.py. I'm gonna paste this one. That's pretty much in working order. Let's see here. Import. Oh yeah, click. Let's see here. So create storage. Requirements. Okay, actually I need to put in click and set up tools. Let's see here. So, and then let me try to run. Let's see here. This one. Let's run this. Whoops. Oh, whoops. Okay, I got that. So what I did was I installed a dependent click package, which I'll describe in a bit. And then let's try this one right here and kind of run all this. No module found. Okay, and it's doing okay. So what I'll do, sorry, demo gods are not in favor, but let me walk you through kind of the logic here, right? And just call out specific Azure SDK and Python kind of tidbits. So here, what I have here is your uh, environment variable. Okay, and it's good practice to have store some environment variables such as your subscription ID, um, and print that. Okay, and then here, so this is really the the use of an Azure SDK, right, is the resource management client. So this is for like obtaining resources, let's say for a resource group, okay? And so we have resource management client. We have to pass in the credentials of that login and pass in the subscription ID. So once we have the resource client, then we can do things such as create or update the resource group. Or in this case, if it already exists, I just get the resource group object, right? So I have here, I pass in the resource group name, the location, and then I get the resource group result object. And through that, because we have like an object model on this, we get some cool things such as like dot IntelliSense, right? Okay, okay, not showing right now. And then next, once we have that resource group, we have, let's say, the storage management client, right, to help provision storage accounts. So again, you need the credential and subscription ID, and then we want to produce the storage account name, just kind of appending random numbers so that you want to be unique, right? And and then here, check storage client dot storage accounts, check name availability with the storage name, and we get the result. Okay. um, and then so the cool thing is that there's polling capabilities here, right? So if name is not available, then we give error message and we exit. And then if it's available, then we go ahead and we create it. We give it the resource group name and the storage account, etc. Right? So from there, um, we can poll for it. Okay. Here we have a long running operation here, and then we wait for the result because creating a storage account can take like a few minutes. Okay. Once that storage account is created, with the storage client, uh, we find the keys, right? It's the storage account key, given the resource group name and the resource group. Okay, once we have that, we have a connection string, and we would just want to show that off. And then we want to actually connect into and create a storage account container, right? So what we want to do is we want to create a file, okay? And so once that storage account container is created, now we have to leverage the blob service client, right? That represents that storage container, and that's by connecting in with the connection string, and then with the container client, then we get that, and then we get the blob client. Now we're prepared to, let's say, upload a file, right? So I upload a file that's a sample file here, and then do that, okay? And then blob client dot upload data, okay? And once that's done, that's good. I ask, prompt the user if you want to kind of delete the resources in the resource group, right? And that's that. So if you allow me to, let me switch over to, um, let's see here. I can, you know what? I think I have a working uh, other window. Let's see here. Let me bring that in here. Okay. So right here. So I think this is more um, suitable. So let's see here. Storage pi. Storage count demo created. Resource group name. Um, okay. So let's see here. Resource group name. Okay, actually, let me do that. Do that. See how far this goes. So provision the resource group. let's see here. Let me switch over to blob file name. Okay, let's see here. Commands, post install, virtual environment, commands, pip list. So, okay. So yeah, forgive me having trouble here, technical difficulties. But okay, so in all, it's supposed to upload a file into the storage account. And let's see here. Let me go to the browser here. So just to review some things. So here, so that's the storage account that got created, and uh, and the container and file would be stored in here. So that's really the rundown of that script there. So just to recap some things, right? So this is where you want to download your Visual Studio extension right here, um, and how to get started on the Azure SDK. So this was really good resource right here, right? Um, I particularly like to use like create resource group, create the storage account. That's kind of where I got the bulk of the code from, and just kind of adapted it and improved it for the scenarios here. Um, and then, okay, so the next topic is I want to mention is, okay, well, how do you run your Python code as a command line? Because, if you're to run your code, if it wasn't a command line, you have to basically go Python, run create storage dot py, and then add like add arguments and all that stuff, right? So um, so there's two things that we need to make it into like a command line tool. One is to have like options, right? Like name of storage account and etc. Right? These type of things. And how do we do it without writing the logic and code from scratch, right? So there's a package called Click, right? And it does all the heavy lifting for you. You import it, and then you have something called decorators. Okay, so you set up click.command, and then you set up options, okay, to be your arguments, right? And then what are the type? Does it have a default value? All those things, right? And then you have a function um, that is your entry point, okay? And then you have your double underscore if name name to equals main to start this hello world, because this is your main package. Okay, so in my case, to do that, right, I would import click, set click command, and then I would have options such as resource group name, file name, description, ask cleanup, and then and have these match up to these function uh, parameters. Okay, and so it's all in a one function, and you have this stating that like this is the main module, like this file is the main module, and so if you call the file here, um, the in your command, like you're calling this to execute this, it's basically saying, okay, well, you're calling me, so execute this function, right, all the way up to here. Okay, so that's step number one. Now step number two is to compile it into an executable. Okay, so and that's what you have is the setup command. Okay, so I have it up here. um, so you have to put all your bits and files, whatever, into its own folder, because then when you put into a folder, it's like its own module, let's say. And then you need to have this is a required file to indicate that this folder is a module, like init .py. There doesn't have to be anything in here. There could be just for more like custom configuration, but in my case, I don't need to. I have the file here that I want to upload, and then in terms of the setup package, okay, so you import another package called setup tools, and so here is your kind of your definition file, right? So there's a lot here to kind of unpack, but let's see here. Um, Let me turn to my slides here. So uh, so I think, oh yeah, okay. 1 second. Let me go back here. So we got that going. So here, the key points is your name of your module, okay, referencing the Python file, okay, which is this one right here. And then because this doesn't really come with, like, let's say the requirements.txt file, you can define, this is basically your requirements.txt, like, as because when you build your executable, all those are brought in, right, bundled up into that your executable command, okay. And then you're saying that, okay, this is the command that will be built as, okay. So when you basically, you can say create az storage, right, and then run that, okay. So so whoops create, yeah, basically this stuff. So let's, yeah, so okay, I need to be in the right folder. But once you got that, then you can start running it like a command and bringing that over. So where that command is uh, built is, I believe it's under lib, no, not lib, scripts. Oh yeah, it's right here. So this is really that executable that gets created once you compile it within um, your virtual environment. So it's right here, right? So actually, wait a minute. Um, how do I? Okay, let me give that one more shot here. Let's see if so. Let me go into that virtual environment. Um, and see how that works. Okay. Okay, cool. So it's running through that command. This is my subscription ID. Okay, well, right here, it's provisioning. It gets the resource group, and yeah, it created the storage account, came up with a name, the storage account connection. Oh, connection right here. Okay, the key for that, created the container 01, also the file, right, which is this one right here, right? So we want to upload that file. So let's turn to the Azure portal and head back, and let's see here. So that second one was created. I believe it's this one right here. And we got your storage account, containers, and there we go. We got our file, right? And we can see the contents of that, right here, right? So that's the same thing as this file right up here. Okay. So so yeah, at least that command tool demo worked there. So um, so that's pretty much it for that demo. Now going back to my slides. Um, so here, just showing the outcome, which I went through. So yeah, in conclusion, kind of like that's my rundown. To recap, you need to install Python for Windows, Visual Studio Code, extension, um, set up a virtual environment, which is recommended but not required, and then open up a Python file, install the Azure SDK packages and other packages like Click and setup tools, and write out all that code there, and then end up compile it. Oh, I think I forgot to mention how to compile that code right here, right? So is that? Let me see here. So it's done through. Basically, you have to run pip install -e for editable, right, within the your virtual environment, right, and then it'll pick up what to compile and your execute, and then you can put the execute in a path environment. So that's that. Thanks for hearing me out, and yeah, over to you, Callan.
Thank you, Roy. That's great. Great presentation. We have one question. Do we get a link to the presentation slide content?
You know what? What's better is because there's just more talking slides. What's better is I have a blog post series on it. Let's see here. Let me pull it up here. So if you go to my blog roykim.ca, you will see a series here. Let's see here. Start with part 1. Okay. And it walks through everything that I talked, but in much more detail, right? So you want to have this one right here. See here, I'll put. Okay, how do I paste the?
I'll paste it in part 1 and
Okay.
part 2, right?
Yeah, and they're all linked, like chain to each other, right? So you just start with part 1, and then you'll make your way, right? So that's how to do that. Any other questions?
No, that was the only question so far. Okay, so if there's no more questions, thank you. So this is live, so people can always come back and rewatch the session whenever they want. Roy, if someone needs to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Twitter, email?
Yeah, like go to roykim.ca. My email is roy@roykim.ca. I'm on Twitter as well, roykim YYZ. I also have a YouTube channel. Just search me there. Roy Kim, like Microsoft, or Azure. You'll see me there. Here I got, and I'm gonna try to do a nice clean video on this session on my YouTube channel, hopefully this weekend. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Roy.
Okay, thanks.
So we got another live session coming up end of the month, January 25th, I believe. Go take a look, join the meetup. I'll post a link shortly before it starts. And we look forward to seeing you out. If anybody wants to come talk to us, do a presentation, just reach out either to Roy, myself, or Roy. Happy to host you.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Okay,
great
bye.
evening.
Bye.
Bye now.